Well, good day, everybody out there in the interwebs. Zombie Force here. Couple of things I want to go through. Maybe it'll help you, save you a lot of trouble. Number one, the little incident that's been complained about in Newark, New Jersey at the fish market incident, and the so-called upset about federal agents entering a building and making copies of people's identifications and stuff, you know? Illegality. Explain this to you so you don't go overboard on a lot of things that some people may be thinking, like you have all these guys that go out here and they do these First Amendment audits, you know, in and around courthouses, police stations, and in public spaces in general. One is whenever you go into a public office and you are requesting public records via FOIA request. Public records are accessible to any member of the public, which means they're open records. You don't have to say who you are, any contact information or anything, because virtually anybody can walk inside that public office and obtain certain records. But, however, any records that pertain to vital statistics, which means that refer back to birth certificates, social security cards, medical records, you know, legal records, those do require a valid proof of identification. Now, here's the second thing. Whenever I hear these things, I hear some of these people say, "Oh, I'm a sovereign citizen." There's no really such thing as a sovereign citizen. You're either sovereign or you're a citizen. One, remember this. According to the Department of Motor Vehicles guidelines, you have to understand this, motor vehicle guidelines. Whenever you take your car down to purchase and pay your wheel tax for your license plate on your vehicle, it requires an inspection. In most cases, you have to have an inspection of the vehicle, which means that the vehicle is getting inspected according to motor vehicles. That's the Federal Motor Vehicles Guidelines. And it does specify that even though it's a passenger vehicle, not a commercial vehicle, it is and can be inspected from bumper to bumper by any sworn official of law enforcement. You have to understand that, which means I've seen these people that get stopped and they say, "Well, I'm not giving my ID. Why did I get pulled over? Can you articulate a reason? Can you give me reasonable reason why you pulled me over?" One, Remember this. This is going to save you some trouble. I know there's a lot of people out there that's going to argue with old zombie force, but a fact is, any sworn law enforcement officer has the authority to stop you at any time. Don't make that mistake. Don't say, well, I don't have to show you my ID because you didn't pull me over for a reason. The reason is they can stop you for an inspection of your vehicle. Just because you got a sticker on there and it says, hey, my vehicle's already passed an inspection, yada, yada, yada. Then why do they have commercial vehicle scales and big sheds out there that inspect commercial vehicles on a daily basis, regardless of their registrations and all of that? Because it's in the federal guidelines manual. You are subject in a passenger vehicle to be stopped and have your vehicle inspected from bumper to bumper. Now, here's the good one. The operator of the vehicle, must be certified to operate said motor vehicle, which means that you have to produce a license, a valid license, to be in operation of that vehicle on a said motor vehicle highway. Public, anywhere in public. That means roads, highways, interstates, dirt roads, gravel roads. As long as that vehicle is on public highways and you're sitting behind the steering wheel, you have to have a valid operator's license to be operating that vehicle on a motor highway, which don't apply to farm equipment, but you got to be 13 or 14 years old to be lawful to operate a tractor on a public accessible road or highway. Remember this stuff, man. It's very important. Whenever you are in the operation of a motor vehicle on a highway, you better have an operator's license, thus identity, your ID. The passenger of the vehicle, they're oblivious. That's true. They're not in any violation from just being a passenger inside of a vehicle outside of remembering to put your seatbelt on. Other than that, you're just a bystander. But the driver of the vehicle must produce credentials to be a valid operator of a motor vehicle. Now let's go back to this Newark, New Jersey fish market incident. 1, these are federal officers that entered the fish market. You have to understand one thing in legality. It is a public, accessible space. You understand? Publicly accessible, which means they had a front door. It wasn't locked. The public has right to come in, purchase whatever they had for sale inside there. And so there was no warrant required in that aspect. They could have just been coming in there to all of them to get a sandwich. You see, just like they do in some of these Waffle Houses and McDonald's and Burger Kings and whatever. They got, as law enforcement agents, they have just as much right to enter a public accessible space as you do. As a business owner, you have the right to refuse service of anybody who comes through the door. Even if it's the President of the United States, you can say, nope, I'm not serving you. You have that right in a private business. But if you was a federal agent and you walked into a business and all of a sudden you hear these foreign accents, you hear conversation going on, you still don't have the right to say, hey, I need to see your credentials. The fact of the matter is it involved a reasonable, articulated suspicion of illegal aliens inside premises. That's what they had. Whenever there's a reasonable, articulated suspicion of a crime, or a crime that has been committed, i.e., crossing the border without permission, is a crime. Whenever there's somebody that says, hey, there's some illegal aliens inside this fish market, they don't have to, by any standards, produce evidence to you that says why they are there and what brought them there. See, that's that little crappy thing about investigations and stuff like that. You don't get anything until your attorney files for a motion of discovery. You have to remember that, which means if the DA says, hey, I don't want to release any of these documents and records until we go to court on this, the only people that's entitled to have that information is the accused and the accuser. You see, the fact of the matter is there was reasonable articulation of a crime that had been committed. During an active investigation, you have to understand this. If you are inside that investigation, which means that building, you are subject to have your identity checked. Now I heard somebody emailed me and says, they got this veteran, blah, 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 blah. I said, so did the veteran get arrested or deported or what? They said, well, no. I was like, so he had his credentials to prove his identity. They had reasonable, articulated suspicion to check his credentials. I can understand it's a little inconvenience, but the fact of the matter is, he didn't get arrested. He didn't get deported. He had his ID checked. And then they fall back to the fourth. Oh, we have the right to be secure in our papers. Hold on a minute. Why do you have those papers then? What the hell do you have papers or identity that says this is who you are? Why do you have them then? Why waste your time with it? I don't have no identity and I don't have no papers. The right for you to be secure in your personal papers and property has nothing to do with your identity. Who are you? I've heard this before. License plates. When an officer comes behind you in his vehicle and you say, oh shit, that son of a bitch is running my license plate. Duh. That's what they're on there for. You understand? It's an identifying registration tag. It says the number on there. It says who it belongs to and where it's from, and typically who should be operating that vehicle. And it has nothing nowadays. It's kind of like I mentioned yesterday in a video. AI. The officer, he don't have to do anything. He just reaches over there and says, okay, this is such and such in his car. This is a such and such type of vehicle. And the program says, hey, this tag doesn't belong on this car. Or, hey, this tag's expired. Or, hey, it shows a picture of who? The person that showed their state driver's license to be able to walk into the DMV and get that license plate. So now there's this big blowout about some officer, he's behind me, oh God, I'm going to get pulled over. No, he can see that tag and registration to that car belongs to that vehicle. He can see all that. Don't be a fucking a Karen. That's what that is. It's being blown completely out of proportion. They've been doing that shit for decades. But however, whenever you show your state ID of your identity to say, hey, this is a valid registration that I'm buying for this car that I own legally, then attached to that little driver's license information is a picture of you in your driver's license. And whenever they come up beside that car and they look inside that window and they see a person that matches the person that's supposed to be driving that car or has authority to be driving that car, generally they just go on and leave somebody the fuck alone. People have to understand that. We don't live in 1929 anymore. The fact of the matter is in all of this, the big blowout of this retired veteran getting detained to have to prove his identity. Hold on a second. How many of those people inside that fish market actually was illegal? And how many of them did, in fact, get in line for deportation? You see, people have a tendency to blow things out of proportion, and then they say, oh, we gotta protect our identity. That's part of the fucking problem. A lot of people, the people have spoken, they want 20 plus million illegal aliens to fuck out their country. Now, how in the fuck is anybody supposed to fucking work through all that fucking paperwork when people have been they've been fucking brainwashed into thinking they don't have to pull out this little ID card? It's amazing how they make that little ID card fit inside your fucking billfold, which your billfold fits inside your fucking pocket, like a credit card. Now, why the fuck would they make it like that then? Keep your IDs. Just do this. Do your favor. Do yourself a favor. Keep your fucking driver's license and your fucking social security card, because it's the same thing. It's got the little wallet card, social security card. Keep it in your fucking billfold or in your fucking purse or in your fucking wallet. Don't be like these dumbasses. Oh, I gotta go back out to my car and get my ID when they go in the bank. I've seen it happen. Keep that fucking driver's license and social security number on you. They issue these things for a reason, and if anybody's not stupid, you already know that you're not going to get much done out here in the real fucking world unless you have a what? valid ID. Try to go in one of these fucking convenience stores and not have a driver's license and buy a pack of cigarettes, or the Dollar General store, or any fucking where. They're gonna say, nope, I can't give you you don't have an ID, I can't sell you this. You can't purchase beer, you can't nothing without that ID. But if somebody of status that's an official federal fucking law enforcement agency says, hey, can I see your fucking ID? You're like, oh, I don't have to show you my ID. You're not getting it. No, you're just being a fucking dumbass. They already know who you are. All they gotta do is put your face in front of that fucking software and they can say, this is who this motherfucker is. Just don't put yourself through the trouble. With all of what's going on and what's all of trying to get straightened out inside this country, I've heard it both ways. Oh, y'all just being a bunch of Nazis. Let me see your papers. It ain't about your fucking papers. It's about that little fucking piece of plastic that the state and county and parish and borough in which you fucking live gives you that. So you can buy beer and cigarettes and everything else that you might prove to be lawful, like existing inside this country. So you can either be a fucking Karen, and you can be a total fucking dick and put yourself and other people through a bunch of fucking drama, or you can produce that fucking piece of plastic that says that's who the fuck you are. Try that shit in another fucking country and see what happens. You know, it won't be no fucking smack on the wrist. Trust me. Have your driver's license and a copy of your social security card, a duplicate inside your fucking personal possession at all times while you are in the public domain. See, that's what it's for. It's to prevent some agent from coming in there and saying, hey, turn around, you know, and cuff your ass up and put you through a lot of trouble when you can just say, here, this is who I am, this is where I live. You're not telling it to a stranger, you're telling it to a fucking federal lawful officer of fucking law enforcement. Don't put yourself through that fucking trouble. And if you like to just do it to get your kicks, go right ahead. But remember, the First Amendment auditors, of course, they're going in, they're getting and requesting public records, which means, like I said, anybody and everybody can go in inside that building and get that record. They don't even know they don't need to know who you are. See, that's the trick to what's going on there. But believe me, have your driver's license, or if you don't have a driver's license, have a valid state ID and at least a copy of your social security card on you at all times when you are in public. This is Zombie Force, out.